Good morning, Pink, and welcome. You're listening live to Heart-to-Heart, a program which aims to help you understand and to become your loving self. I'm Dr. Mitra Rashidian, a licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified sexologist in private practice located in Encino, California, offering this program along with my wonderful friend, best friend, colleague, business partner, and much more, Dr. Robert Jaffe at KMET, 1490 AM ABC News Live. And Dr. Jaffe, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. So we're here today, and today is our program on addictions, codependency, relationships, and trauma.
So more reason for people to invite you to join us. 951-922-3532. Please share your questions, your comments about these most important areas that impact most of our lives these days. And for many years they have, and that they need to be discussed and deserves to be understood.
Absolutely. So we've been talking, and we're following up from our last program. We've been talking a lot on what codependency is, and to just remind our listeners, codependency is, in our view, the most common addiction. Codependency is a state in which two individuals get together relying on each other to fill them up. And of course, anything that you use outside of yourself, including another person, to fill you up is not going to work in the long run. In the short run, it may be very exciting, and you may feel as though you have found your soulmate. But filling ourselves up is really an inner job. We have to learn how to do that for ourselves. And so we can say that each person needs to bring 100% into the relationship. And then if they do that, it's not 100% plus 100%. It's actually a synergy. So the 100% that you bring in, the 100% that your partner brings in, the synergy creates much, much more than 200%. It's not like 1 and 1 equals 2. It's like 1 synergized with 1 equals much more. And
that's the only place that mathematics doesn't work, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So what do we mean by filling each other up? What we mean is that you find a purpose. You find a purpose for yourself in life, and that purpose, whatever it is, creates meaning for you. And the meaning that you create for yourself benefits you, benefits your family, everyone around you, and also benefits the world. And so your purpose, whatever your purpose is to do something with love. And love really is the purpose, I believe, for all of us. And love is the thing that fills us up. And all addictions do is they modify the internal pain so that we are numb. And we can do that with different kinds of addictions, which can make us not just numb, but also euphoric. And so we believe that the euphoria, while we're in this, the euphoria is actually the filling up, and it isn't. So anything like drugs, alcohol, gambling, cigarettes, any kind of drug, including marijuana, certainly marijuana falls into that category, can be used in a negative way. It doesn't mean that if you smoke 1 joint that you're an addict, or if you have a drink, you're an alcoholic. But if you're using it on a regular basis in order to feel good, the chances are that there's something more going on with you that you may want to take a look at, because eventually whatever you're using is not going to satisfy you, and then you're going to end up not feeling good. So today we've been talking about the roles, the traits, and the components of what happens in dysfunctional families and the roles that people play in order to cope with being in a family that doesn't treat everybody as having an equal worth, not an equal role. Of course, the parents are leaders, but an equal worth, so that everybody's feelings are valued equally. Everybody's feelings are noticed, everybody's feelings are attended to, so that each person feels a sense of worth and belonging in the family. And when that doesn't happen, the members of the family can be the children, it can be one of the spouses, takes on a role in order to try to heal the family system. But the role that they take on doesn't really heal, but it allows the person to cope within that family. And then as they grow up, they usually hold on to that role, and then they use that role in order to relate to other people. And when they have their own family, they sort of copy what they saw in their family, and the roles continue. So the roles can be anything like rescuers, fixers, people pleasers, and we talked about that last week. We talked about overachievers, and I think we also talked about inadequate people.
No, we didn't get to
get
that.
into.
No, we got to the overachievers,
Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And we barely even discussed that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's as far as I remember. We can ask our audiences, maybe they can remember.
Well, yeah, we would love you to call in or.
Yeah, why don't you call us and let us know how far did you get? 951-922-3532.
Good thinking. Okay.
But just in case, I'm sure that every time, we have different audiences. Hopefully we have the regular ones, and then hopefully we have newer ones.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just go over the overachievers.
Good. We'll talk about that. And when you call in, feel free to ask a question, make a comment, maybe share your story. We don't have an infinite time on the show, but you can give us a little synopsis of your story. And remember that anything that you share probably is the same thing is going on for many other people who are listening.
Yes.
So you're benefiting them, and we're not going to do a therapy session on the phone. We don't think that that number one, it's really that ethical, and we have to shorten it so much that we think that it may be even counterproductive. But we will engage you. You don't even have to use your real name if you don't want to, but we'd like you to call in so that we can know who you are and we can give some generic answers that might benefit you and others.
Exactly, and people don't know that, how powerful their stories are.
Right. Yes.
Perhaps the most, profound data, situation that you can share with other people are your stories.
Mm-hmm.
There is so much hidden in those stories. So much is felt, in the experience of those stories, right?
Yes.
So they are powerful. They're beautiful. They are unique. They belong to you. So they deserve to be discussed. They deserve to be known about.
Absolutely. And sometimes just by sharing your story, that's the basic idea between all the 12-step groups, right? Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Sexual Compulsives Anonymous. The main idea is that people get together and they share their stories, and in the sharing you get to hear yourself talk, and hearing yourself talk is different than just thinking about it.
Right.
So as you hear yourself talk, you get to new awarenesses. Then other people can relate to you. Then you're not so alone, and good things happen.
Exactly, and we can also learn from each other's experience and apply it to ourselves.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So we talk in this show a lot about our authentic true self. We didn't start off the show today saying that, but right now I'll say that our authentic true self is something that most of us, the majority of us, are born into. We come into the world with many qualities, and those qualities are part of our authentic true selves. And what are those qualities? We say that we come in open. So we're open to new experiences. We're open to connecting with others. We're open to new learnings. We come in curious. We're curious about things. We want to find out about the world. That's our authentic true self. We come in sexual. That's part of our authentic true self as human beings. We all are sexual. We just learned recently that that boys actually can get erections in the womb, and girls, they've measured lubrication as early as 3 days old, maybe even sooner.
Mm-hmm.
And so we are all sexual beings, and there's nothing to be ashamed about because it's ubiquitous throughout humanity.
And people have asked me that, how's that possible?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it is like asking me, how's that possible that a 3-day-old infant is able to breathe? How's the 3 days old baby is able to, touch or
Mm-hmm.
or to be fed? Well, it's just part of our nature. Everything is part of our nature.
Exactly.
Whether that's our sexuality or our breathing capacity or our feeding capacity, right? It is all functioning at the onset of birth.
Mm-hmm.
And it's done at the onset of death.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So there is no surprise to now we are able to actually, announce that infants have sexual capacities,
Mm-hmm.
because that is part of human nature, and a baby is a human. It doesn't matter how old they are.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And actually, what that means is we are fully functional at birth.
Right.
If boys can get erections and girls can lubricate, then we're fully functional. And what comes online at the beginning is our right brain emotions.
Right.
So all of
our left brain doesn't show up until much later.
Yeah,
in life.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. So our right brain emotions are where we take in all information at the beginning. And our feelings are exactly the same at birth as they are at age 20, 30, 50, 70, 90. We all have the same feelings. We don't all experience our feelings exactly the same.
Right.
Yeah. And so when we come back, we just got notice that we're going to have our little break. When we come back, we're going to talk about a little more about what happens in dysfunctional families, the roles that people play, and you just reminded me that we left off at overachievers. We'll talk about different roles that people play: overachievers, perfectionists, victims, and a very interesting comment is that these roles often stay with us even past childhood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we look forward to your returning, and hold on, we'll be back shortly.
Welcome back from commercial break. Dr. Mitra, Dr. Robert are here at Heart-to-Heart program at KMET 1490 ABC News Radio. Today's discussion is about codependency, addictions, trauma, and impacting relationship, and what are some of the characteristics that we develop starting with our childhood that leads into adulthood and impacts our relationships there. Please call us at 951 922-3532. We want your stories. Your stories are the most powerful tools that you can share with people so that you can make sense out of them. Everybody else can hear them, and then you know that you're not the only one with that experience, and how everybody else's feedback can be actually so powerful and important to everybody, including us. Your stories, when they are shared here, they are heard by countless other people with similar experiences, and it is so powerful when we hear our stories and we share similarities, whether we know each other or we don't. So please call us at 951-922-3532. And Dr. Jaffe, we were talking about overachievers.
We were talking about overachievers, and I was saying that we're born into the world as the majority of us are born into the world as our loving, authentic, true selves, and when that is validated, which is mostly our feelings, as we were saying, our feelings are the same when we're born as when we're 90 years old. We have the feeling of being scared. We have the feeling of being angry. We have the feeling of delight. We have the feeling of sadness and frustration. And I see my 2-year-old granddaughters being jealous, and all of that is just part of being the human experience, right? So when our authentic true selves are seen and validated when we're children, we grow up knowing ourselves better. And when we know ourselves better, we can make better decisions for ourselves. We can pick people in our lives that are better for us and that are more right for us, and our lives just become more joyous. And when that doesn't happen, when parents who are usually adult injured child themselves, because they've been injured in their families, and sometimes it goes back generations, when our parents are unable to parent us in a way that affirms our authentic true selves, then negative things start happening. Kids don't feel understood. Kids feel mistreated. Not just feel, sometimes are misunderstood, are mistreated. And of course, then they start to have anger and resentment, and take on different roles in the family in order to fit in. So we've been talking about the different roles that people take in dysfunctional families, and we talked last week about rescuers and fixers. We also talked about people pleasers, and then apparently we started off with overachievers, and apparently you said we didn't really get into that. So we'll pick up today with overachievers and people who are overachievers. And if you see yourself in this, it's important. One thing we know about people who enter therapy, and that is they are courageous. Because people who enter therapy are basically saying, I'm more interested in the truth than I am in proving myself right.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so if you notice things that we're saying, don't get discouraged. See it as a positive, in that, oh, I can recognize this, because anything that you can recognize and understand, you can overcome. But the greatest enemy that most of us face is denial. And denial is the enemy, because you cannot deal with something when you're not admitting that it exists, right? So if we're talking about overachievers, or we're talking about perfectionists or victims, don't see this as pejorative. It's not a negative label. It's just a state that you've adapted, or that someone you know has adapted in order to fit in. And as human beings, we not only do we want to fit in, we need to fit in to our families, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
So if we don't fit into our families, then our families are going to ostracize us, and we cannot afford that when we're tiny. right? We're totally dependent on them. It's a life-threatening issue. So we have to fit in. So when we're talking about these different roles, we're simply talking about ways in which people have creatively figured out how to fit in.
So it's a surviving mechanism on its own, right? So when somebody, is not being welcome to the family, or not being paying attention to, or ultimately get to the point of where I'm not good enough, right? So it's natural for them to become, overachievers, develop an attitude of being so perfect, or making sure that they stay on top of everything, or making sure that they achieve so much in life so that people can look up to them, versus, giving them the feeling that they're not good enough. Right.
Right.
And I do have some overachievers in my practice, that nothing is good enough for them. And honestly, I myself, I was a kind of an overachiever at some point.
Really?
Yes.
I never would have known.
You see, I'm making a live confession about my own attitude, right?
Okay.
And then how I developed that's not the issue, but the reality is that we get to a part where we think, whatever we achieve is not good enough. Oh my God, what about this? What about that? I need to go one step higher. I need to get this one. I see that among some of my colleagues, actually, that they have, tons of, social media, connections. They have like so many podcasts. They have so many, interviews. I mean, makes me wonder, when are they going to see clients with all that during the day, right? So those are also an aspect of overachievers, right? It's not really a sign of success. I mean, it is a success, obviously, but when would that success be experienced and felt and, loved?
Right. Yeah.
When is the time to enjoy it, versus looking at the next one up, next other interview, more podcasts, more, more of many things, right?
Right. And so we're not saying that if somebody is successful on the outside, that means that they're empty on the inside.
Right. No, we're not saying that.
But it does happen.
It does
happen,
yes.
And it happens more often than we would like to think.
Right. So it kind of becomes, a rat race of, I need to do more, I need to do more, I need to do more, and I need to be above this one. I need to, bypass this person. I need to achieve that. It's right. It's a never-ending process. It's never complete. It's never felt good enough.
Right. Yeah. So the reason we're talking about overachievers, and we're bringing it in with the true self, is because overachievers feel empty inside. The definition, actually, of overachievers is somebody who feels empty, and they're empty because they're disconnected from their true self. And so what they do is they try to fill themselves up with achievements. And of course, the world rewards people like this. So when you have achievements, when you do things, for example, you become a top tennis player, or an athlete, or a professor, and you get your doctorate, and these are things that the world rewards us for, and so it's easy then to imagine for yourself, if you're that way, that once you get that PhD, or once you win the U.S. Open, that you're going to then be happy.
Okay.
And of course, achievements in and of themselves don't make us happy. Right. Achievements may bring rewards such as money and fame, but money and fame by themselves don't make us happy.
Exactly.
Right. And what does make us happy is the connection with who we really are, and living from that place, so that we feel authentic, and that we can move towards goals that are meaningful to us, and we're enjoying the process as we're doing it.
Exactly.
So that
Yes.
when you end up getting the trophy, you don't then say to yourself, well, now what?
Now what? Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Because the now what was not just the getting of the trophy. The trophy was just another step in the enjoyment of what you were doing, and then you continue doing it because you love doing it.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So so that's basically what overachievers are. They try and fill themselves up with achievements, and so because of that, once you have the achievement, once you get the gold medal, or the top honors, whatever it is in your field that it gives you the top, uh, then you do say, what now? Because you were expecting that to fill you. And there are people who do that in terms of their relationships, where they marry somebody who's very wealthy, or they marry someone who's very attractive, or they marry someone who's very famous, and then they expect that they're going to then feel that, or they become very wealthy, or they become famous, and they expect that to fill them. And I thought it was interesting, when Sally Fields, when we all remember, her receiving those honors and her saying, "Wow, they loved me. They really loved me," because that was the perfect example of her not really knowing
how much she was
how
loved.
much she was loved.
Yes.
Yeah. And so you think, well, somebody like Sally Field, who's world renowned, she would feel it, but she really didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought
Exactly.
I thought that was a perfect example of somebody expecting that outside it was going to come from the outside and not from the inside.
Right.
Yeah. So that's overachievers. I'm talking right now from a book that I've been recommending to people. It's an older book, I think in the late 90s. It's called Codependence: Healing the Human Condition, and the subtitle is A New Paradigm for Helping Professionals and People in Recovery by Charles Whitfield, MD. He wrote another book that's a great book also called Healing the Child Within. And so in this book, he talks a lot about codependency and the healing process. And so that's what we're talking about today. And so the next thing that I want to talk about is another role that people take on, which is inadequate ones, or failures in the family system. And of course, all of this stems from not being in touch with your authentic true self.
Exactly. Yes. Right.
So failures are people who have low self-esteem and also feel a sense of shame. The difference between guilt and shame being guilt is I feel badly for what I've done, and shame is that I feel badly for who I am.
For who I am, yeah.
Yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of people carry a lot of guilt and a lot of shame. And what I've learned in my own therapy is that when you do that, when you carry guilt and shame, you punish yourself.
Yeah, we have so much self-sabotaging behavior.
Yes.
Right,
yeah.
as a result of that, and we don't notice that they are self-sabotaging behavior.
Right. And self-sabotage is one of three ways that we punish ourselves. One is through self-sabotage. Another is through body problems. So we get aches and pains, and actually can cause our body to break down in certain places. We can get frequent headaches. We can get frequent stomach aches. We can have problems with our bowels, and all sorts of stuff can happen. And that's our way of punishing ourselves. And of course, we're not doing it consciously. And someone would say, well, this just happens to me. And that's because it is subconscious. We don't know that we're doing it. But the healing process actually can heal that. And we now know that actually the majority of times that people visit doctors, it's for a psychosomatic or psychogenic reasons,
Right.
meaning that we've created that particular thing in us, and we don't recognize that we've created it. The good news is if we've created it, we can also create health.
Right.
But we have to learn how to do that.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's two ways that we deal with our guilt and shame, is through self-sabotage and body problems. And then the third way is projecting onto others.
And boy, that happens.
Boy, does that happen. And so, if you would just change, I'd be okay.
Yes.
And we hear that in families, and we hear that in relationships all the time.
Yeah, you made me angry.
Yes.
If you wouldn't have said that, I wouldn't have said this. If you wouldn't have reacted that way, I wouldn't have acted this. If you wouldn't have, been prepared, I wouldn't have hit you. If you wouldn't have, I wouldn't have called your names.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. So just got the notice that we're about to stop. We will stop, and we will pick up in a couple of minutes. Please stay tuned, and see you soon.
Welcome back to Heart-to-Heart at KMET 1490 AM ABC News Radio. Dr. Mitra and Dr. Robert here, talking about inadequate character, right?
Yep, the different roles that people play
Yes.
in dysfunctional family systems, and all of these are connected with being codependent.
Exactly. Yes.
We talked about overachievers. Let's see, we also talked about people pleasers, rescuers and fixers. We're talking now about people who feel inadequate. And we said that people who feel inadequate, they have low self-esteem and a recurring sense of shame. We just talked about what guilt and shame do to us when we have guilt and shame inside. We end up hurting ourselves. We do it in one of three ways. We do it either through self-sabotage. Where did I put those keys? I always put them in the same place. God, where is it? That's a mild form, but we do self-sabotage in all ways. Yeah. Overeating, going off our diet,
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times this is connected with guilt and shame.
Right.
I don't say that anything is all or nothing, so don't get excited if you're always losing your keys. It doesn't mean you have guilt and shame, but it's something that you might have, right?
Yes. Right.
And so staying open to possibilities and looking at yourself honestly is the mark of courage, and also is the one way that you can be clear that you're going to be dedicated more to truth than to lies and to denial.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, and we talked about how denial is one of the biggest problems that we have.
And one of the biggest river in the world.
Denial, and yeah, as I pulled up to our building, there's a big sign on our building, and the sign says, wear your mask or no entrance.
No mask, no
mask,
entry.
no entrance. And a van pulls up, and probably 15 kids, when I say kids, people in their 20s, to me they're kids, I'm going to be 71, but people in their 20s get out of this van. There's like 15 of them, none of them wearing masks.
Yeah.
and they go into the building, because they can.
Yeah.
Right? And so they're in denial, right? Hey, I'm 20, I'm never going to get it, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, and of course, that isn't true, and unfortunately, they will get it, and I don't want them to get it, but denial keeps us from dealing with truth.
Right.
Right. We don't want to see what the truth is.
Yeah.
So, we're talking about inadequate people who feel bad about themselves, and actually, I'm going to say something that most people are unaware of. And that people who talk about themselves as if they're Mr. Wonderful, have inadequacy as the basis of that.
Right.
Anybody who touts themselves as being the best, as being terrific, as being never making a mistake, those people are countering their feelings of inadequacy,
Right.
And going in the opposite direction to bolster their very, very low self-esteem. And of course, these people can be very, very successful outside, but underneath they don't feel good about themselves. So they have to keep achieving more and more and gathering more money and more
Exactly.
fame and all of that,
Right.
in order to keep themselves from collapsing. So that's inadequate people. The next one is perfectionists. And perfectionists are driven by a fear of failure. And the fear of failure is so powerful that they believe that they have to be perfect, or they're going to be open to criticism, and that criticism will expose them for who they really are,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it's not who they really are, it's who they fear they really are, because we have an inherent worth as human beings. Every human being comes into the world with an inherent worth by the fact that we are human and the fact that we are beings. I say human is the ego part of us. It's the part that's connected with our physicality and our bodies, and that part is ubiquitous. Every body has a body, right? So we all have the human part of us, and then we also have the being part of us, and every body has a spirit. And so, I watched many years ago, I watched when my dad did his transition from this world to the next. And 1 second he was a being, and the next second he wasn't a being. And it happened in 1 second.
Right.
Yeah. And I saw, and he wasn't himself.
Right.
And anybody who has seen a human being transition from that place to a non-being, to a corpse, recognizes that there's a magical quality that just left.
Right. And I have seen that myself too.
Have you?
Yes, with my cousin, and I was by her, bed when she said goodbye. And
yes.
In 1 minute, in 1 second, she was looking at me with full of energy, and within the split of a second, it was gone.
Yeah.
The energy was gone.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now, not to digress too far, but now science is actually finally catching up with metaphysics, because science now says that this is all sort of a light show,
right?
Because nothing is solid,
right?
and we go, how's that possible? This book is solid, This desk is solid, but it's really an illusion, because when we look down into the source of it, what it is, it's all energy. That's blinking in and out of existence millions of times per second.
Right.
That has the appearance of solidity.
Yes.
So it's pretty amazing.
Right.
So perfectionists are driven by their fear of failure, and the need to avoid being wrong about anything. So the worst thing that you can say to a perfectionist is you're wrong.
Right.
And if you say you're wrong, that perfectionist is usually going to explode. Because how can you say that? And I'm understating it. Because I'm on the radio now. But that perfectionist can go into a temper tantrum.
Right.
Because the word wrong is saying that not only that they make a mistake on this issue.
Yeah. How dare you think I'm wrong? How dare you can say I said I'm not able to do this, or
yeah.
How dare you tell me this and that? It's just like killing them.
Exactly. And they feel it as a direct attack, as though you're actually attacking them with an axe.
Right.
Yeah, and so that's what perfectionists feel, and that's how they behave, and
we see that that perfectionism shows itself in variety of different relationships. And also self-care and many things.
Right. And so what I say to people that I'm working with when I see that they are perfectionists or have perfectionistic tendencies is that there's a difference between being perfect and striving for excellence.
Right.
And so then we talk about, well, what is that difference? And being perfect means that there's no room for improvement. And striving for excellence means that I can be excellent, and yet I can even be better, and yet I can even be better. And excellence is not perfection, but it's damn good.
Right.
Right.
When yeah, when we see we give those labels to us, we sort of ending our personal growth.
Right. Right.
Right. And personal growth, as we know, it's a lifelong process.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Right. It never ends.
Exactly. Exactly. And so a lot of people they'll come into therapy, and if I've been asked this question once, I've been asked it 10 million times, and that is, well, Doc, how long is this going to take?
Yeah. Boy, have I been asked that questions.
and I don't laugh because it's a legitimate question,
Yeah.
but I'm laughing now because the question is sort of like I don't know. I may have mentioned this on the radio yesterday about when my mom caught me masturbating.
Yeah, you have said
I
that.
admit that. So I'll say it again. It's like, okay, so I was like 12 years old. My mom walks in on me masturbating, and so she immediately walked out, and then later on, we had a doctor living next door to us. She went over and talked to the doctor, and she said, well, my son is touching himself. The doctor says, yeah, it's normal. And she goes, uh-huh. And she goes, so when will he stop? And the doctor says, well, when he dies. So I don't want to say to my client, because it's sort of a sarcastic remark, well, this is not that you're in therapy, it's going to be for your life, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be. It really depends on what the person's goals are.
Right.
Right. So usually people come in with what we call in therapy a presenting complaint, and the presenting complaint can be anything from my wife and I are always fighting, or I feel this tremendous anxiety all the time, or I get panic attacks. Those are presenting complaints. And sometimes people want to resolve those. And once they resolve those, then they're done with therapy.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
That's fine.
Right.
But sometimes what happens is people most of the time do come in with presenting complaints. And then once those are resolved, other things come up, and then they wish to continue. And that's okay too. So, and then sometimes people come in just to deal with the presenting complaint. They stop, and then when something else comes up, they come back.
Right.
I've had people that stop for years and then come back. So it's really that no one can say how long it's going to take, because it isn't like you're coming into a doctor and you're getting a shot.
Right. We don't have a prescription of antibiotic that will show it effect in within a day that you take it.
Right. And so
it's not like that.
So I say it has to do with not just the skill of the therapist, although that's a big part of it, but also how fast the person processes what the work is.
Yeah, therapy is a process, and that's the key point that people need to understand, that process is different for everybody. Mm-hmm. For some people, the presenting problem is just the tip of the ice.
Right.
Right. So it depends. There is no one size fits all kind of a method that can help people. And the criteria that we are introducing usually have, much deeper underlying causes, mm-hmm. which they requires much longer time of process.
Correct. Exactly. Right. Exactly. And so, and there are people that I treat for many years, mm-hmm. Because of how damaged they were when they came in, and unfortunately, actually Jesse, the man who helps us with these programs, He was talking today about how he heard about these what did he say, 9 children that were kept captive in their home, and one of the little girls managed to escape and went to a neighbor's, and that's how they caught them.
Yeah.
And there's some horrendous things going on, and people, who go through experiences like that, they need a lot of help.
Exactly.
Yeah, in order to feel okay, and even more help in order to flourish.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And if somebody comes in and they're suicidal and they're very depressed, it may take a long time.
Yes, I mean, I have clients that they come in with such a high energy, and they want to set the goal, and they want to work through it, and they say no matter what it takes, they want to solve their issues and all of that. And then once we get to the process and they see the process is not really an easy thing to go through.
Well, it's not easy because what it requires is you're having to go through uncomfortable feelings.
Right.
The
feelings that they have been avoided, the feelings that they have been declined, the feeling that they didn't want to look at, right? And also the responsibility of themselves into creating those feelings.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So yes, things happen to us, no question about it. Not everybody has, healthy parents. Not all the parents know what to do, and I'm not blaming parents or anybody here. It is what it is, right? But then again, when in our adulthood, we are the one who decide to subconsciously carry on with the earlier beliefs and continue with them and live with them.
Right.
So now that when we bring them to their conscious, it becomes so hard to deal with, and they stop therapy.
And oftentimes people do stop therapy, even when they get to something that's very valuable for them,
right,
because it's so painful.
Right.
Yeah. And
so
we're just about out of time.
So we would like to invite you to join us next Thursday at 3 p.m. and also next Friday. And for those of you who celebrate Rosh Hashanah, happy Rosh Hashanah and happy holidays,
yeah.
Right? And wish you all the best. And don't forget that until the next time we meet, and always, all you need is love.
Love, love, love. Well, have a great weekend and happy holidays.